Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. There is many different types of therapy, counseling out there to help move your life along. Maybe you got stress, career transitions, relationship challenges, anxiety, all of that. Here's something a little bit different that you might not have realized, and it's art therapy, the arts. Specifically today, we're going to focus on dance therapy. Who would even think that dancing, being free, expressing yourself, movement can really impact your life? Sure, it feels good, but it can help you heal from a lot of different things. And she provides that psychotherapy all the time. This is in her wheelhouse. This is her specialty when it comes to that. Deniz Oktay is our professional of the year, and she's back with us. How's everything going today?
It's great. Thank you. It's nice to be here.
I've heard of this previously, and we've talked a few times before, and I've heard of it before we got together, but I had no idea how deep this goes and how beneficial the therapy is. And I've learned through you that the movement allows you to get it all out, where a lot of us walk around with things bottled up inside. Am I seeing that right?
Yeah. I mean, movement definitely, it's like it gets the movement, it gets things, the energy going, right? I think the hard thing is sometimes to get moving.
Mm,
But there's also it's the way in which dance, and specifically I'm talking about modern dance and creative dance, any dance that invites a creative expression from the mover, right? So you can go into a class, you can go to ballet, you could do a lot of different kinds of movement, sports, that kind of thing. But there's something about the creativity of movement and dance,
sure.
which really allows for a lot to come out.
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and you tell me if I'm right on this. But somebody who does country line dancing probably would not qualify for this because it's syncopated. You're doing the same thing as everybody else. You're not really freely expressing yourself. Would I have that right in the large
Y-
picture?
I mean, it's different. A country line dance could be used as a way of building safety in a group in order to get them to feel comfortable moving
Okay.
out of and into more of an individual expression. That's how I would, I mean, I'm not a country line dancer, so I would never, that's not something I would do. And that's not really the tradition of dance therapy. So yeah, very different to go in. But some of the concepts, I will say, are the same. Rhythmic,
Mm,
synchronous movement with a group of people really does break down barriers of communication. And you can
wow.
see whether you like that kind of dancing or not, people have fun and start to maybe like express more in their faces, maybe speak more, laugh more,
Hmm.
have more conversation. Something opens up. And that is something that is very unique to dance therapy, specifically in the study of dance therapy, is that rhythmic, synchronous movement in groups does help to break down. It doesn't have to be the exact movement either. Someone could be like, twirling their thumb, tapping their, finger to a beat, and someone else could be jabbing their elbow to the side. So it could be a different body part, or it could be a different rhythm, but using the same body part. There's a lot of ways to join in synchrony. Um,
Thank you for
yeah.
sharing that because you make me see it in a different light. The synchronicity among others, because country's great. It's not my first choice for my type of music. And I'm going to be honest, when I watch people country line dance, I'm like, it doesn't, I don't get it. It's
Mhm.
not, I'm not robotic. When I hear music, I'm going to move, I'm going to flow, I'm going to do my thing. And I'm going to change it up based on this, I don't get it. But now I'm getting it more in terms of how it can be beneficial because of the synchronicity and the safety feeling within a crowd. We're all doing the same thing in that type of dance. and we're all on the same page. So there is benefit there. So now I'm seeing the benefits. So I
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
appreciate that. Yeah.
Okay, good, good.
I'm not,
Yeah.
I won't be so much a hater.
No. You know, it's interesting that the history of dance therapy was Mar Marion Chase is considered one of the mothers of dance therapy, and she was a modern dancer, but she went into the backwards of mental institutions and hospitals where World War II veterans were coming back from the war, deeply traumatized. Of course, they didn't have language for it then, but they were unable to kind of speak their experience. And what she would do is she would put on her record player the waltz, and she would waltz with the veterans. And this, she found, really allowed for a relationship to develop between her and the veterans. And also, in a group setting, the veterans themselves started to come out of their shell and
Wow.
started to interact and engage. And that's really the kind of birth of dance therapy as a profession to help and work through mental health issues. But
Wow.
it's interesting that it kind of came out of that dance of the time, the waltz. Yeah.
Was it when that took place? She put that. And funny you say record player because it's
It
exactly
was.
what
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
Um, when that was put on, what were the members of the military doing at that time? Were they waltzing? Because you got to know how to waltz. I feel that dancing, anybody can dance, but that's there's a certain rhythm and you got to know how to do it. So what happened at that point?
Yeah, well, that it was a popular dance, so I think the
Okay.
assumption was that a lot of people would know it because it was so popular. But when people, she describes, and there's a lot of photographs and things too, the movement wasn't always just a beautiful waltz. Sometimes the movement was very fragmented and maybe almost cut off almost in a psychotic way. Like, for someone who's like unable to verbalize or even be in relationship or even know where they are in time and space, right? The movements that come out might not be socialized in the same rhythm or the same way that you would normally communicate. It might come out very jagged, or it might come out very uh, full of too much effort, So I think what she would do is come and join in whatever movement the person was doing, right? So that's why dance therapists are trained, come from a dance background, because you do have to know something about the theory of dance in terms of like the core, what warms up the core. There's sort of like a framework. You have to start with a warm up, and you move into more theme development. Then there's maybe a development of the theme, and then kind of like a debriefing. But that joining with mirroring, it's like a kinesthetic joining with another person. So even if they're just moving their arms in some sort of bizarre way, coming and joining them in that, right? And not judging it, not asking them to change and do something different, seeing where it goes, it expresses something, right? And then through that, language can start to come and say, like, this feels, whatever this feels like, or it kind of like helps the person express and be met and felt joined. Yeah. I hope that's clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel that we should say there's no wrong here.
Yeah.
You can't do it wrong.
The only wrong is harming someone, right? So if someone's like violent in their movement or really doesn't want anyone close by, I mean, that's of course not even a wrong, but it's just like that's not a part of the dance therapy space. Obviously, harming yourself or harming others, that's the only rule.
Mm-hmm.
Different settings there will be. If you're working with teens, there's going to be a little bit more structure around like, what are the rules here? But in terms of a dance therapy theory and a dance therapy practice, there is no wrong, right? It's all expression. It's all accepted. It's all just, unique to the person. It's like, let's get curious about it. What's happening here? right? What does this feel like? And then as a therapist, you can come try it on. Like, what does it feel like to move like this? What must it be like for this person to be in their body moving this way, right? It feels stuck, feels like they're trying to get something out that they can't say, right? And then let me see where my body wants to go to maybe help them and bridge. So then, the relationship is so much a big part of it in terms of the movement.
Hmm.
And yeah.
It's I understand what you're saying, and I'm getting flashbacks even to a few months ago, and I don't know if I shared this or got into detail, but I went on a retreat. It was a retreat for men, and totally out of my wheelhouse. I would never do this. It was just a last minute decision. It was on the other side of the country, by the way, so it wasn't just let me drive 20 minutes and I'm there. And multi-day retreat. And on the second day, and there's some heavy stuff that was talking about in terms of relationships, your parents and things like that, all, all good. There was a session where they put on music and you were encouraged to dance like a jerk. It's okay. And, here's 300 men in a room and not like, what are we doing? And it took one man as part of the group facilitating to show you it's okay, be a jerk, dance, do whatever. 300 men doing that.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. Just crazy, if some men, you might have a Latin background, so you move in a certain way. Somebody else with a different background, you're moving another way. And it went on probably for about 15 minutes. And there was different songs, random songs, upbeat, fun. Just let it out. Do your thing. Basically, like the phrase goes, dance like nobody's watching, but everybody was watching. We were looking at each other like, look at you go, look at you go. Then you be moving. That's what opened my eye up to what we're talking about here. And again, these are 300 men. Like you would not even think that they would just get all crazy, silly dancing and just letting it be free, letting it go.
Sounds wonderful. It's so
Yeah,
liberating,
it was.
and that's something that I'm actually branching into more is working with companies and institutions and corporations and working with staff and employees, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because think of a great way to one, just blow off steam, right? For staff to come together, and also the fun that can be had in terms of like letting go of some of the role that we're in, wherever
Right,
it is,
right.
and just letting the self come out and be seen and be accepted for that can really just do so much for bonding and for, if you think of like, and if staff are happy and feel accepted and feel like there's a camaraderie, oftentimes performance, whatever the field is, improves. Right. So I really
Totally.
feel like companies can really benefit from this. And I've done a few of these events and I just love it. I think it's such a great way.
I see the value here. It's as we're talking about it, let's say a company is doing a big convention or some kind of team building, whatever it might be. I'm talking on a big scale, and they have different people coming in to facilitate.
Mm-hmm.
You should come in as one of the facilitators at some point, either at the beginning or at the end, to kind of break the ice and lead what's going to go on. I'm saying that after I saw this and experienced it. Now I get it. And this is again, this was only 15 weeks ago ish, that so it's fresh in my mind, that it does make a difference. And it totally changed the tone of the
Mm.
retreat. And it was the springboard for other heavier stuff to come. But it also equalized everybody because it didn't matter how you danced. It was just, do your thing. And quite honestly, when it was over, it was like, oh, it's over. You wanted to get, last longer. But it's interesting, like you're talking about classical music, the waltz. Um, you could dance to anything. You could even freely express yourself. I was listening to a song the other day, and they sampled Johann Strauss, and I can't pronounce the titles, but it was dun 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 dun.
Uh-huh.
We all know it. You could really let it all out, even to that. and that's a classical piece of music. It kind of doesn't matter what the music is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think Isadora Duncan, who was also considered like the mother of modern dance, who she took off the ballet slippers and she um, danced bare feet and was very rebellious and about kind of like what is the human expression of the body through dance. That's kind of like what she developed. And she choreographed a dance to that piece of music,
Oh, really?
all about the ocean and the waves and the coming and the forward. And so
Wow.
dancing, it just took me back to my days of dance. I used to dance for a company called Isadora's Dance Legacy, with Teresa Ann Joseph, and we did the works of Isadora Duncan. So it's really
Wow.
wonderful. It changed my life. Loved it.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was dance, I know we talked about your journey and your background before, but did you did you always enjoy dance even, as a child? Was that kind of your thing?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I used to, I mean, when I was really little, like as soon as I started to, you know, stand up and walk and stuff, 3 years old, I used to just dance around the house. There's like videos of me just flailing about. When I was about 6, I developed this. We moved to Maryland, and I met these other girls on my block, and we loved dancing. All of us. We would go put on a record. It was like the full side,
Sure.
and we would just dance for the whole 30 minutes, just improving off of each other, dancing around. And then we started to get into more formal classes. I started taking theater, tap, ballet, and I was very fortunate to have a modern dance teacher in my high school, which was very unusual. And she brought in a real modern dance education very early on in my life. And
Wow.
that also really changed my life. Yeah.
How do you define modern dance?
Modern dance is, uh, it's a good question. I'm not sure how to define it, but I can say that it is the dance of human expression,
Okay.
of the human experience. And it also, yeah, I'd say that the dance of the human experience. Yeah.
Um, I see that. There's again, it goes back to there's no wrong here. It's the movement and release of certain things. When you work with somebody, how long does it take to see the benefits of the dancing and somebody starting to change in a different direction?
I mean, movement is almost immediate. You always see something change. When you get up and you go into the body, you go up into you move into movement, it's all of a sudden it's like, oh, I didn't realize that I was feeling that way,
Hmm.
like it's like surprising almost. So while the deeper changes and like really like being able to take the change that you feel and apply it out in the world can take some work and some time, that's why I love the arts and that's why I love dance therapy. There's so much metaphor and there's so much opportunity for insight in a very instantaneous way because one, you feel different when you get up out of the chair and you start moving your body, especially if there's music on or something. And it's not always positive and rainbows and unicorns. I mean, sometimes you get up and you're just like, you really feel the heaviness, or you really start to feel the pain that you've been avoiding, or you start to feel the sadness somewhere and you release. But it usually does facilitate some sort of release, and crying can feel really good. It can help you move through the tears. Then you feel lighter. And then you're like, oh, now I'm ready to dance. Now I'm ready to like really feel the joy of my body in space, moving by myself, moving with another. I was carrying all this stuff around. So I think whatever the release is, sometimes it feels wonderful. Sometimes you get in touch with a little bit of what's holding you back and
Hmm.
what's in there that you're kind of avoiding.
Do you feel that we don't realize what's going on here in terms of when you start dancing, you don't know until you know. So once you start, just freely expressing yourself. You could be alone, put on some songs, let it go. Then you start feeling better. And you don't realize it until you're doing it because a lot of us look at him like, really? Come on, just like moving around. Is that going to make a difference? Come on. But it does.
It does. I mean, I'm a dance therapist. I've been dancing my whole life. I still have to like, talk to myself. Get up, just do it. Just,
Mm,
take 5 minutes at the end of the day and dance. And it really does. It always reminds me of like, oh, wow, yeah, this is powerful. It also reminds me like how much we take in as people, as individuals, as humans in the world. We take in a lot that goes just kind of like through our ears, through our senses, and it kind of lives there in the body until we have a time and space. Like you're describing this situation, this retreat. You have to have a space where someone's like kind of holding that space for you and kind of inviting and saying like these are the guidelines. I'm going to keep you safe here so that you can
hmm
let yourself out and it's okay. You're not going to be judged. You're not going to be harmed here, right? That requires but sometimes holding space for yourself to do that, is one thing. And then also finding spaces where someone else holds that space for you. To be able to come to start paying attention, like, oh wow, yeah, I hold myself in a lot, that kind of must be affecting my mood during the day or
I can totally relate to this. And even in the last week, I had to attend something that was a little bit challenging. Not gonna lie, personally challenging. And I was able, it's close enough for me to walk. Just happened to be that way. So I put on headphones and started walking. And it was just a couple of miles. And when there were no cars going by, and it wasn't a very crowded area, and there would be a point open there, I was just singing loud. I was even playing guitar, and it prepared me and made me stronger for what I needed to deal with. Not
yeah,
even kidding. Not even kidding.
yeah. Yeah, because it also connects us deeper to ourselves, right?
hmm
To a sense of like, oh yeah, this is who I am. I feel confident. I feel
Yeah.
good. I feel my feet on the ground. I have my voice. And then you can go into situations and kind of hold your own.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, there's of course all different kinds of people,
Mm.
people pleasers or people who become really animated and take over the space, but it's really just because they're super shy and fragile and don't want to be vulnerable, right? There's all kind of strategies that we use to be in space with other people. Um,
I
yeah.
guess it depends on your personality too.
Yeah.
Whatever that we all react differently. And even with music, we react differently. Some people drive in the car and just make it loud. Other people make it loud and sing, and everybody's different how you grab music, but it is so universal, and it's amazing how some songs stick with you. And everybody's got different tastes, but there's a couple of songs that I'm stuck on right now for weeks. I
Uh-huh.
don't know why the universe is throwing it to me, and
Uh-huh.
there's messages in it, and I know it. I haven't dissected and figured it out, but I'll listen to it over and over again. And sometimes it gets to the point where I don't even know I'm listening to it over and over again. It's just there, it's just playing in the background. But it's really
Yeah.
therapeutic, healing, and all of that. Somebody has any questions for you or even wants to work with you, even I know that you're in Brooklyn, New York, but also on a virtual level, how do they find you?
Yeah, my website is williamsburgbodymindtherapy.com. Williamsburgbodymindtherapy.com.
Yeah, super simple. Not a lot of people I know do what you do.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much for, digging in and having this conversation. It's great to talk about it.
Oh, I get it. I
Yeah,
totally get it.
you
But
do.
I get it more now that I've talked to you. That's the difference because the retreat and all of that stuff I was like, man, that was funny. That was cool. Now I see why they did it, and I see what the
Uh-huh.
outcome was of it. And even I'm seeing the visuals of the people that were there and how it just loosened everything up and let everybody just be themselves. Um, and that's what it's designed for. Super cool. Thanks again for being here.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks. We'll be right back.
Bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.